Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin, and you want an angry rant? You want a really angry rant? Something that I've ranted about briefly before, throughout the past couple years, maybe even actually since I first started this channel. But if you really want an angry rant, here's a 25-year reflection on Hulk Hogan's ego trip in 1993. Hulk, I want to fuck my daughter. That's why I'm friends with Donald Trump, because he wants to fuck his daughter, Hogan. Hulk, Nick didn't do anything bad. Wait, he's in jail. We're going to try to, get out of paying anything to his best friend who went through a windshield and is now a vegetable, Hogan. I'm going to bury Randy Savage, or it's Hulk, I'm going to bury Randy Savage and everybody that I work with. Hog the spotlight from a great wrestler like Randy Savage, Hogan. Let me also clarify. Hogan did a shit ton for the wrestling business. Both good and bad. And you can say that about any major wrestling star. Any major wrestling star. Sting, Flair. A lot of it comes down to creative, to booking and stuff like that. But also to creative control and having an ego and everything. And Hogan has one of the biggest goddamn egos ever. And he does, because he still thinks he can wrestle at 60 plus years old with a whole bunch of back surgeries and legs that haven't worked that still work better than Lex Luger's. And yeah, there's my little shot at Lex Luger, the fucking murderer that he is. But as for Hogan, the reason 1993 gets a 25-year reflection is you have to think about where, Hogan was in 91, 92 and stuff like that. And especially 92. He was in the final three of the Royal Rumble. Got tossed out by Sid. Then Flair tossed Sid out when Hogan grabbed Sid's arm because, of course, Hogan doesn't appreciate playing by the goddamn rules. He didn't like that he wasn't in the final two. I mean, he shouldn't have been. Though I kind of liked how Sid tossed him out. That was great. And then Flair wins the title. Goes the distance and everything, and Hogan makes it about himself in 92. But then people are cheering Sid at the end of the Rumble. And then instead of Savage versus Flair going on last, which it should have, at Mania 8, no, Hogan goes on last, and it's Hogan's last match. The idea would have been to do Hogan versus Flair, but I'm guessing neither guy wanted to do the job, even though Hogan should have done the job, and Flair should have been the standard bearer for WWE, at least for the next year. But it's Hogan's last match. Hogan suddenly disappears because of the stupid comments he made on the Arsenio Hall show, where he did not, and I believe it was Arsenio Hall, it might even been some other shows that he set him on, where he denied steroid usage. Bull fucking shit. He's not the only wrestler that used steroids at that time. Randy Savage got caught, with steroids. That's part of the reason, I guess, apparently, that Andre the Giant, kind of looked down a bit on Randy after that. Rumors. But Savage, Hogan, so many others used steroids. So let's not, and I apologize, by the way, allergies and everything is why my nose itches. But let's not, pretend like Hogan's the only one that did steroids. Because he's not. But since we're talking about Hogan, since we're talking about the fact that Hogan was a fucking idiot, and for fucking lying about and bringing all this shit down on WWE, business went down. I mean, they managed to draw a pretty respectable crowd in Indianapolis, even though they had to kind of paper the house to really make it full. But after that, Hogan disappeared. Did some movies and stuff like that. I don't know what movie he did. Hogan did nothing but ass-tacular movies. Like, seriously, they were terrible. And did anybody see Thunder in Paradise? I'm sorry if you did. They were cheesy, fun, ridiculous, but the fact that Hogan thought that he could break into Hollywood when he could barely wrestle. He was incredibly charismatic on camera, but it just didn't translate to Hollywood. But okay. During the time that Hogan's gone, right after WrestleMania 8, Bret Hart, Bulldog, Shawn Michaels, various others step up and become big stars. I mean, Shawn was already on the rise anyway, being a heel. Bret and Davey had a great knockdown, drag-out match and a great technical, family affair at SummerSlam 92. Then Bret captures a title from Ric Flair on a house show, I believe in Saskatoon. in October of 92. So Brett's the guy. Smaller guy, but leaner, more athletic, and a great spokesperson for the company. He was WWE through and through. You can feel however you want about Brett now, but at the time, he was great. And of course, yes, I'm a little biased. Brett was my favorite superstar of all time. But Brett was the flag bearer. And then they were building up Yokozuna. Samoan, who played the Japanese Grand Champion. He was going to be the big heel that they were going to build. They were going to have Brett versus Yokozuna. And they started at the 93 Rumble. It was right after Raw had started. I think it was like 2 episodes into Raw. Because the 3rd episode was Flair and Perfect, and that happened, and Flair left. This was right when Vince said he was going to go with youth, and that's why Flair decided to leave on top. And then, be on WCW in a non-competing role until his WWE contract ran out. There was no compete clause or something like that. So they're going to go with youth. And yeah, you had Bob Backlund in there, and Bob Backlund was used pretty well, at least in the 93 Rumble, and then most of 93 he was just kind of used just here and there. The Razor Ramon Bob Backlund match that they had at Mania 9 was ridiculous. But the whole idea is Vince is going with youth. Shawn, Tatanka, Razor. Kevin Nash got brought in as the bodyguard soon after. I want to say soon after Mania 9, if I remember right. You had a whole slew of young talents. I mean, obviously Undertaker is a well-established character. The Steiner brothers. I mean, they were world travel, but established. The Head Shrink. You had a whole bunch of youthful talents. Doink, Matt Bourne. I mean, he had been around, he'd been Big Josh and NWA, WCW. And there have been a couple other characters. I forget exactly who else he was, but Big Josh is one that leaps out. It was ridiculous, but it was silly. You had a whole slew of talents. Young, hungry talents and everything. And what do? In late February, Brutus Beefcake gets beat up. Now, I want to say, and by the way, I went a little more in-depth in this when I reviewed all of the 1993 February episodes of Monday Night Raw, where it made a couple of them centered around Brutus Beefcake. Actually, pretty much they all centered around Brutus Beefcake returning to the ring after his parasailing accident. I'm not a fan of Brutus Beefcake, the wrestler. Just never was. Never thought he was that good. Especially after he became the Barber, because to me it was just ridiculous. He was fine as a heel. But anyway, it was great that Brutus recovered. I'm happy that Brutus Beefcake recovered. And this was all done as a way to get Hulk Hogan back. Because, yes, Brutus Beefcake was, the reason pretty much that Brutus had a career after 1990, after his parasailing accident, was because of Hulk Hogan. His friendship with Hulk Hogan. Nothing wrong with that. If I was friends with the biggest star in the company, yeah, I would take these opportunities that were handed to me also. I wouldn't say, no, I'm going to turn down all this money. No, I'm going to turn down these big opportunities. But, yeah, he wouldn't have had the money. Or he wouldn't have had all this fame and everything. And he certainly wouldn't have lasted as long as he did if he wasn't friends with Hogan. And it's not burying Bruce, it's just facts. But all this and the whole thing with IRS and Teddy DiBiase bashing Hogan's, or not Hogan, but Bruce's face in, with the briefcase. And bashing his face and, damaging his face with all the metal plates and stuff like that was a way to get Hogan back in the ring. So Hogan the next week comes in and does... By this point, he was noticeably slimmer. Like, no, Hogan, you didn't do steroids at all. That just looks like why you lost, I don't know, about, I would say 40 to 50 pounds. I mean, he was still in good shape, don't get me wrong. And I think actually his body, his knees, and his back probably thanked him for, losing that weight, because all that muscular definition would cause a lot of strains on joints and everything and stuff like that. But yeah, no, Hogan never used steroids. Never fucking used steroids. And this is where the rant's going to get a little angry. So if you're a Hogan fan, and by the way, I'm going to try to not tag some Hogan fans I know that that like him. And that's fine. A lot of them watch my channel. I want to make this clear. If you're a fan of Hogan still, great. I'm not saying that you guys can't be. At 12 years old, even, I was kind of excited to see Hogan back, but Bret Hart was my guy. I was more disappointed Randy Savage was on commentary not being used in the ring nearly as much. I mean, I know part of that was Savage wanting to be on commentary and take some time and less of a toll on his body. But anyway, And also, he did want to get back in the ring. At one point, Vince only wanted to use him sparingly. But anyway, Hogan. Hogan and Beefcake team up. They're going to take down Money Inc. And the idea is Hogan's going to give a rub to his buddy, Gross. You interpret that however you want. And they're going to take the tag titles from Money Inc. And you're building up this. Not a very good card at Mania 9. I mean, Head Shrinkers versus the Steiners was actually decent. Tatanka versus Shawn would have been better if Tatanka had won, and that was Shawn playing some politics. Shock of shocks. Not the first time he would do that. And that's why Shawn is ranked high, but not as high on my favorite superstars of all time. Partly because of the politics, but anyway. So, okay, you got these big matches, and Hogan in a tag team, part of it was a way to, like, hey, we're going to go with youth, but maybe this will give Brutus a rub. It's a way for Money Inc. to have some quality opponents and stuff like that. And the idea was Hogan and Beefcake were going to beat Money Inc., who had had the tag titles for a while. I want to say since just before SummerSlam? No, wait, it was just after SummerSlam, because Money Inc. got beat by LOD, but it wasn't for the tag titles. I don't think Money Inc. had them yet. I think Natural Disasters did, if I recall correctly. But I know Money Inc. captured them soon after. So they'd had them for about 7 months. 6, 7 months at that point. Okay. Well, they do a DQ or something like that, or whatever. Not Dairy Queen. I mean, Dairy Queen's really good. Now I want Dairy Queen, but they're closed. It's like midnight. Anyway. I hate late night cravings, don't you? I don't even do drugs, so I don't even have that excuse. I just like food. Anyway, so you have the goofy finish where Beefcake and Hogan don't win the tag titles. Okay, cool, whatever. Later in the night, Bret and Yokozuna end up having a match that isn't really all that great. Part of that is Yoko wanted to go home early, or wanted to do the go-home spots early because he was getting tired. Well, maybe if Yokozuna wasn't the size of a house, that wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have been so bad. And I'm sorry, but and I love Yokozuna. The guy should not have been that big. If he wasn't that big, if he was like what he was in 93 instead of what he became in 96, it might have worked better. But anyway, Bret loses to Yoko. Salt in the eyes. Yoko, 1, 2, 3. Yokozuna's the champion. Big heel champion, everything. Celebrating. And then, of course, Bret's like sound effect in his eyes. He's got salt in his eyes and stuff like that. And Hogan comes down and is like looking, as if Hogan ever fucking cared about Bret Hart. It's pretty obvious he didn't. Wait, this is an injustice. Hogan, once it's like, oh, maybe the match will be restarted, and Bret can get his eyes flushed or something like that, and Bret can suddenly win the match. Nope. Mr. Fuji says, my Yokozuna issue a challenge, and I'm not making fun of Mr. Fuji. His English was good, but not great. Fucking Hulk Hogan. Yep, Bret's doing this. Go. Bret's probably just wanting to throw up because he's having to put over Hogan. Hogan gets in the ring. They do the salt spot. Yoko gets him caught in the eyes. He knocks Fuji out of the ring. Leg drop, 1, 2, 3. Hogan celebrating at the end of WrestleMania 9. After not having wrestled for a goddamn year, he doesn't want to win the tag titles with his best friend, or at least one of his best friends, because that was beneath Hogan, yet it would have helped out his friend. So yes, it's a great friend that you are there, Hogan. But then he captures the title at the end of WrestleMania 9. I'm sorry, people can like that if they want. I don't know too many that do, and I'm not going to knock you guys if you do. But it was terrible. Fucking terrible. It was a slap in the face to Bret. It was a slap in the face of Yokozuna. It was a slap in the face of the fans. I mean, some fans popped for it, but there were some fans in the crowd where you can see and they're like... And I wouldn't have had a problem if Hogan had wrestled at, say, SummerSlam 92 and wrestled at Survivor Series 92 and made some appearances. He hadn't been on TV for nearly a year. It was about 10 months before you saw him again. And then he does that. And that's not the end of it. Oh, no. That's not the end of it. The idea was, okay, Hogan there with with his title that he didn't fucking deserve, and I don't care how much of a star Hogan was. By 93, he was not drawing. He was not as relevant. He then is supposed to put over Bret at SummerSlam 93. Hogan's contract was pretty much done, I think, by the beginning of 94. If I remember right. I don't know if he signed to a 10-year contract, but I know that Vince probably signed to a big contract. Obviously, one of the biggest box office draws of all time. Why would you not want to lock him in? But SummerSlam 93, he was supposed to put over Bret. And Hogan, now mind you, they only had 5 pay-per-views at that point a year. They had Rumble, Mania, King of the Ring this was the first year King of the Ring was going to be a pay-per-view, then SummerSlam, then Survivor Series. So 5 pay-per-views. So maybe the idea is you put over Bret in 93. Maybe you do Hogan's team versus Luger's team or something like that. Or have Hogan, and Luger on the same team and stuff like that. And tease that and have that match at the Rumble and then Hogan leaves. Now, they screwed up the whole thing with Luger, at SummerSlam 93 anyway, but that's another story. Hogan, I don't remember how many Raw appearances he made after that. I don't. I'll get to those episodes later. But he didn't make that many appearances. And he didn't defend the title, at least on TV. Whereas Bret defended it against Fatu, and it was one of the early March episodes in 1993, right before Mania 9, which was a really good match. And a match that I will actually happily review when I do the March 1993 Raw episodes. But the whole point is Hogan wasn't going to put over Bret. Oh, it wouldn't be believable if I put over a small guy, Vince. I'll put over Yokozuna. It's like, all right, pal, you're going to put him over clean? Ha! No, I'm not. I don't know why Hogan sounds like he's gargling with Drano. No, brother, we're going to do this, and we're going to have a camera go off, and, I'm going to get some sympathy by him squashing me, brother. Terrible Hogan impression. I apologize for that. But 1993, Hogan versus Yokozuna. They had this whole thing with a weird camera man. It was a bad match. It wasn't a very, very good match anyway. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't a very good match. But looks like Hogan's about to beat Yokozuna. And then this cameraman gets on, the apron, and he's got one of those big old cameras. It's got like the bulbs, the bulb like thing that always fell out. Like in The Aviator. Anybody remember the movie The Aviator when Leonardo DiCaprio's character Howard Hughes, he's walking down there and he's getting all baffled by all the lights and everything as the bulbs fall out. Those kind of cameras. Well, Hogan's wondering what's going on, staring into the camera like a fucking idiot, and this flame comes out and it's supposed to burn his face. Yoko ends up getting him 1, 2, 3, and then Bonsai drops him once or twice, I recall. And then Hogan's suddenly gone. Gets, taken out. He's like, holding or whatever, this kind of stuff. I guess he has the same expression when Brooke punched him when, he tried to sneak into her bedroom, I guess. And yeah, Hogan's a fucking creep. Rubbing lotion on his goddamn daughter's thighs. The fuck, Hogan. Just, good God, this match. It's like, Yoko got more steam as champion, but it would have been just fine if they had Yoko go out of Mania 9 as champion and have Hogan suddenly challenge and Bret can't compete, or we signed the contract and it's like he can't, Bret can't, get a shot at Yokozuna so soon. He's got to wait a certain amount of time, and then Hogan steps in and then Hogan loses. It would have made Yokozuna seem stronger, and it would have given Yokozuna a nearly year-long reign. But no, he got about 10-month reign out of it, which, still, good reign. Even with the limited pay-per-views they had. But Hogan wouldn't put over Bret. Put over Yokozuna in the most convoluted way possible. All they needed was to have somebody parasail in, which keep Beefcake away from that. But say somebody parachute in or stuff like that and throw a flame at Hogan, or take the picture and the flame shot out, or parachute in and like, knock Hogan out with a club or something like that. They might as well just, goofed it up all like that. The whole point is just completely ridiculous. It ruined business in 1993. It made Bret look ridiculous. It made Yokozuna look ridiculous. And then, of course, they did a whole thing with Lex and Yokozuna at SummerSlam, which we're not going to go into because I already did that briefly in my Times in Wrestling to Piss Me Off Part 2 show. But here is why I ranted on it for this long. And I wanted to lay out as many details as I could. I'm sure there's stuff I forgot, and please leave in the comments what I forgot. But just Hogan, okay, Hogan didn't want to be in WWE anymore. Part of it was Vince letting him out of his contract because he wasn't drawing for him. And that makes sense, but it didn't do any good for anybody. It made Beefcake look ridiculous. There was no redemption. They didn't capture the tag titles. Whether Beefcake and Hogan deserved the tag titles or not is irrelevant. I mean, Money Inc. could have lost them and it wouldn't have mattered. Because they had had a long enough reign. But it made Yokozuna seem ridiculous. It made Bret seem it made, Yokozuna look stupid. It made Bret look stupid. Everybody got worse when Hogan came back to the company. Sorry, it's just the truth. At least in 93. Now 92 is kind of tough, with 91, whatever. 90, you can have your arguments there. Things were still pretty hot. But after the whole steroid allegations and denying them, what the fuck was there? It was scorched earth. And yeah, Hogan deserves the lion's share of the blame for that. Again, he was not the only one using steroids, but it was pretty fucking ridiculous that he did that. And yeah, I hate the fact that Hogan did what he did in 1993. It was fucking ridiculous. It was a slap in the face to people, especially hardworking people, that stuck around while Hogan skittered away like a scared little bitch. And yeah, part of it might have been just because, we need to get you away here and trim down. And oh no, Hogan, you trimmed down and slimmed down because you wanted to, not because you were off the juice. I hated this. As a fan, even looking back on it in 96, 97, when it was like, when Hogan, was really hot in NWO and stuff like that, and WWE was catching fire. I'm like, wait a second, Hogan was a real dick. And especially once Bret Hart got to WCW, I was like, why don't you have Bret versus Hogan? Oh, wait, that's right. He didn't want to do anything with Bret in 93. Just fucking ridiculous. So anyway, yeah, fucking Hogan was a bitch for doing that. Anyway, that's what I gotta say. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? Would you like me to do any more reflection shows on anybody's ego trip during a certain time? Leave in the comments and let me know if certain superstars. Now, mind you, there are maybe certain superstars I won't tackle, but let me know, and I will consider that, and I'll even credit you guys for it. Especially if you leave in the comments. If you leave it on Twitter, I'll try to write it down, but leave in the comments, and I will make sure to like it and write it down. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.